Welcome to Cheat House. Let's dive into today's story. It all began with an unexpected phone call. It was a typical Friday evening, and I stood in the kitchen, stirring a pot of spaghetti, when my phone buzzed. My buddy Nate was calling. "Hey, Evan, you got a second?" His voice was hesitant, heavy with something unspoken. "Yeah, what's up?" I replied, pressing the phone closer to my ear. There was a pause, just a beat too long to feel normal. Then he sighed. "Listen, man, I saw Maya today. She was with some guy, and, it didn't seem work-related, if you know what I mean." My heart skipped a beat. "What are you saying? Where was this?" "At that coffee shop downtown," Nate said, his tone somber. "I wasn't sure if I should tell you, but they were holding hands, Evan. Holding hands." My mind raced. Maya was supposed to be at work. I tried to stay calm, though my voice wavered. "Maybe you misunderstood," I muttered, unsure whether I was convincing him or myself. "I hope so," Nate said softly. "But I thought you want to know." When the call ended, I stood frozen, staring at the pot of bubbling spaghetti as the steam clouded the kitchen. Later that evening, I decided to confront Maya. I found her scrolling through her phone on the couch. "Hey," I started casually, trying to mask my unease. "How was work today?" "Busy," she replied without looking up. "Same as always." I swallowed hard. "Did you go anywhere after?" She glanced up, her eyes narrowing slightly. "Why are you asking?" "No reason," I said quickly. "Just curious." Her response came too fast. "No," I came straight home. "Why?" I studied her for a moment, unsure whether to push further. But something about her tone stopped me. "Okay," I said, retreating to the kitchen, though suspicion had firmly settled on my shoulders. Over the following week, the unease only grew. Maya seemed distant, distracted. She started leaving for work earlier than usual, coming home later, and spending more time glued to her phone. One evening, as she sat next to me scrolling through Instagram, I couldn't hold it in any longer. "Maya," I said, my voice firmer than I expected, "what's going on with you?" She looked up, startled. "What do you mean?" "You've been distant lately. Is there something you're not telling me?" She sighed and put her phone down. "Evan, you're overthinking. Work's just been stressful." "Stressful?" I asked, my voice rising slightly. "So stressful that you're holding hands with someone else?" Her face turned pale. "What are you talking about?" "Nate saw you," I said bluntly. "Downtown, with another guy." Her lips parted, but no words came. Finally, she stammered. "That's ridiculous." "Is it?" I shot back. "Because right now, I don't know what to believe." Maya stood, crossing her arms defensively. "Evan, I don't have to justify myself against some random accusation. Nate probably saw someone else." But the way her eyes darted to the side told me everything I needed to know. That weekend, we attended a party hosted by our mutual friends, Sarah and James. It was supposed to be a light-hearted evening, drinks, laughter, and a break from the tension that had engulfed us. But the unease followed us like a shadow. When we arrived, Sarah greeted us warmly. "Maya, Evan, grab a drink and join us. We're about to get started." I poured myself a beer, keeping it light. I wasn't in the mood to drink heavily. Maya, however, went straight for a hefty glass of wine. By the time we made it to the patio, she was already on her second. "Maya, slow down," I whispered as I leaned toward her. She rolled her eyes, her cheeks flushed. "Relax, Evan. It's a party." The night unfolded around us. Music blaring, people laughing, drinks flowing. I tried to enjoy myself, chatting with friends, but my eyes kept drifting toward Maya. By her fifth glass of wine, her laughter had grown louder, her words more sluggish. "Hey, let's play a game," someone shouted. "How about truth or dare?" Sarah suggested, her grin mischievous. Cheers erupted around the group, including from Maya. "No way," I muttered under my breath. "Oh, come on, Evan," Maya teased, nudging me. "It'll be fun. Like old times." With a resigned sigh, I joined the circle as the game began. At first, it was harmless, silly dares, embarrassing questions about past relationships. Then, it was Maya's turn. Truth or dare? James asked, his eyes glinting with amusement. "Truth," Maya slurred, giggling as she leaned back against the couch. The breaking point. "All right." James began with a mischievous smirk. "What's one thing you'd change about Evan?" The room went eerily quiet, the question lingering in the air. I shifted uncomfortably, sitting up straighter, suddenly alert. "Maya," I started cautiously, but she cut me off before I could say more. "Oh, that's easy," she said with a slurred laugh, waving her hand dismissively. His skills in bed. Laughter rippled nervously through the group, but I felt my stomach drop. She wasn't done. I mean, he tries, sure, but honestly, it's just not enough. He doesn't. She trailed off for a moment, leaning forward as if sharing a secret, though her voice was loud enough for everyone to hear. He doesn't satisfy me. And, honestly, if he were, bigger, that might help. The laughter died immediately, leaving behind an awkward, heavy silence. I could feel every pair of eyes in the room turning toward me, the weight of their stares pressing down like lead. My face burned with humiliation. "Maya," I hissed through clenched teeth. "That's enough." She giggled, completely oblivious to the gravity of what she had just said. "What? It's true, isn't it?" I shot to my feet, grabbing her arm as I spoke, my voice low but firm. "We're leaving. Now." "What?" "Evan, come on." "It was just a joke," she protested, stumbling slightly as I helped her up. "Say your goodbyes," I snapped, not sparing anyone in the room another glance as I led her out the door. The drive home was tense. She continued laughing drunkenly, muttering incoherent apologies and brushing it off like it was nothing. When we finally arrived, I slammed the car door shut and turned to her, my voice shaking with anger. "How could you say something like that?" I demanded. She blinked at me, her expression foggy with confusion. "What are you even talking about?" "You humiliated me," I said, my voice rising. "In front of everyone. How could you make fun of something so private?" Her face hardened, and she crossed her arms, leaning against the car. "Oh, grow up, Evan. It wasn't that serious." "Not that serious?" I echoed, stunned. "You just told a room full of our friends that I'm not good enough for you. How could you?" Her lips curled into a sneer. "Well, maybe you're not," she spat, her voice laced with venom. I stared at her, unable to process the words coming out of her mouth. "You know what, Maya?" I said, my voice cold and even. "I'm done with your games, your lies, and your complete lack of respect for me." She rolled her eyes but faltered slightly. "Evan, you're being so dramatic." "Get out of my sight," I said, turning away. "Just leave me alone." She didn't argue. Instead, she stumbled inside, muttering something under her breath. Her uneven steps thudded up the staircase, and moments later, I heard the bedroom door slam shut. I stayed in the living room, sinking into the couch, surrounded by a suffocating silence. For the first time, I didn't follow her. I didn't wonder what she was doing upstairs. I just sat there, staring blankly into the dim room, trying to untangle the mess that had become our relationship. Her words echoed in my mind, sharp and unforgiving. "He doesn't satisfy me. I wish he was bigger." Was that really all I was to her now? A source of disappointment and ridicule? My thoughts circled back to what Nate had told me just days ago. I saw her downtown, Evan. She was with some guy. They were holding hands. At the time, I had tried to dismiss it, clinging to the hope that Nate was mistaken. But now, I couldn't ignore the nagging doubts gnawing at me. If Maya wasn't satisfied with me, maybe she'd found someone else to fill the gaps. I didn't want to believe it, but the thought refused to leave me. Hours later, I crept upstairs. The bedroom light was still on, but Maya was sprawled out on the bed, fully dressed, snoring softly. Her phone sat on the nightstand beside her, carelessly placed. An internal battle raged within me. Part of me urged me to let it go, to walk away. But the other part, the part desperate for answers, won. I reached for her phone, clutching it tightly as I headed back downstairs. Sitting on the couch, I stared at the screen, my hands trembling as I unlocked it. Maya had never been careful with passwords. It was always her birthday. Her messages loaded. The first few threads harmless. Work updates, group chats, memes from Sarah. But then, as I scrolled further, a name appeared. One I didn't recognize, Adrian. I opened the chat, and my stomach dropped. The messages spanned months. Sweet nothings, flirty exchanges, plans to meet up. And then the photos, pictures of them together, hugging, kissing, lying in bed. Some taken in a hotel room, others unmistakably in our house. I scrolled further, my chest tightening, until I found the videos. Intimate clips that left no room for doubt, moments that were meant to be ours alone, private, sacred, and untouchable, were now staring back at me from the phone screen. It wasn't just a betrayal of the act itself that broke me. It was a deliberate way they had chosen to capture it. They had recorded it, immortalized it, like it was something they cherished, something they wanted to relive. Each image, each second of video, hit me like a blow I wasn't prepared for. My mind spun as I tried to process it all. I wanted to stop, to shut it off, to throw the phone across the room. But I couldn't. Something inside me compelled me to keep going, to see just how deep this wound ran. Every second I watched felt like it was crushing me. My chest tightened, and I struggled to breathe as I saw her, Maya, with this man, Adrian. This wasn't a fleeting mistake or a one-time lapse in judgment. They'd been together for 5 months. 5 months of lies, of betrayal, while I had been blissfully unaware. For a moment, I just sat there, frozen, the phone trembling in my hands. Then, with shaking resolve, I forwarded every photo and video to my own device. I needed evidence, not only for myself, but because I knew I couldn't confront her without it. Once I was certain everything had been sent, I deleted the messages from her phone, leaving no trace of what I'd found. Carefully, I placed her phone back on the nightstand exactly where it had been. I left the room silently, closing the door behind me. That night, I lay awake on the couch, staring at the ceiling. My thoughts were a storm of anger, heartbreak, and disbelief. 5 months. She had been unfaithful for 5 months. Every kiss, every laugh, every intimate moment we'd shared, it all felt like a lie. Our marriage was over. Deep down, I knew there was no coming back from this. The next morning, I didn't wait for her to wake up. I left the house early, driving straight to a lawyer's office. If our marriage was ending, I needed to act quickly to protect myself. I explained everything to the lawyer, showing him the evidence I'd gathered. He listened intently and assured me that we could start the divorce proceedings immediately. By the time I returned home, Maya was awake. She was in the kitchen, humming to herself as she prepared breakfast, completely oblivious to the weight of what I now knew. For her, it was just another normal day. For me, it was the end of everything. Finally, I spoke, my voice cold and restrained. "Maya, we need to talk." She turned, a slight frown on her face. "About what?" I took a deep breath, bracing myself. "I know about Adrian." Her eyes widened, the color draining from her face. For the first time in weeks, she looked genuinely caught off guard. What are you talking about?" she stammered, setting down the spatula she'd been holding. "Evan, don't start." I didn't let her finish. I pulled out my phone and held it up, showing her the photos and videos. Her face paled further as she stared at the screen, speechless. I didn't mean for this to happen. she finally whispered, her voice shaky. You didn't mean for it to happen? I repeated bitterly. How could you not? This wasn't an accident, Maya. This was a choice. For 5 months, you lied to me. You betrayed me. Tears welled in her eyes. I was confused, she said, her voice breaking. I wasn't happy. I needed someone who understood me. You needed someone to touch you. I shot back, my voice filled with bitterness. And you let him film it, Maya. This wasn't just a lapse in judgment. This was deliberate. She sobbed, her face twisted with regret. I'm sorry. I wasn't satisfied, Evan. I needed more excitement. But I never wanted to hurt you. I shook my head, my voice calm but cold. You did hurt me, Maya. First, you humiliated me in front of our friends. And now this. I can't believe you. I'm sorry, she pleaded. I never meant for it to go this far. It's too late for apologies, I said, my resolve firm. I've already filed for divorce. It's over. Her eyes widened in shock. What? You're serious? I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. I turned away from her and went to pack my things. As I zipped up my bag, the finality of it all sank in. This house, once a home filled with love, was now just a reminder of everything that had fallen apart. I grabbed my belongings and walked out the door, heading to a hotel. Once I was settled, I made a decision. I forwarded the photos and videos to our close friends and family. It wasn't about revenge. It was about the truth. They needed to know who she really was and what she had done. The responses were varied. Some expressed sympathy, others were shocked, and a few even sided with Maya. But none of it mattered. I had done what I needed to do. The weight of her betrayal was no longer mine to carry alone. Maya moved out shortly after. She didn't fight me for the house or anything else. Perhaps she knew there was nothing left to fight for. The divorce was finalized, and I began the long process of rebuilding my life. Though the future was uncertain, one thing was clear. I would never let anyone treat me that way again. I wasn't broken. I was free.